From our guest house, where the apple blossoms had come fully and were now beginning to drift away in the breeze, we could see many mountains around us. Sundays we would just choose one and head into the hills. That was the case the day we went to the XVI, up through the hot springs where the ladies washed their clothes, past the temple and the boys in the street who tried to sell you charas in the corner. We continued up. Soon the concrete guest houses were behind us, and the apple orchards with a few traditional houses were before us. Past this we crossed grazing lands and pine forests until we came to what would be a grazing land later in the year, but was now covered over in a blanket of snow. In this place, within the hollow base of a living tree, I hid the golden waist clasp that had accidentally been packed away in my things while in a rush to leave our friend's house in Kolkata. I hung the clasp there in the tree, hoping that the stillness of the mountains and the majesty of that tree would impugn some positive energy upon our friends, which we have not heard from since the day their father banished us from Kolkata. We continued on the snow for some time until we felt unsafe atop thick deposits and steep valleys and atop narrow ridges. There are many birds here. Some are small and colorful, others large and peafowl-like. The crows here on the mountainside speak in a strange way. We came down again to Manali. While passing through the park between New and Old Manali, we found a fallen tree perched across another that suited us as a sort of jungle gym. George and I began bouncing on it, and soon an Indian man passing on the path was taking photos of us. We had a conversation with him for a while. I remember him saying, "The people here are good. If you go elsewhere, you find greed. People want your money. You see that here, but those are the people that have come here for business. People are still safe in Manali. Even women are safe." We went to the dhaba for breakfast and took our 2 boiled eggs and yak cheese with us to the back corner of Manali, past the Manu temple, to a heavily eroded sheep-pushing path that leads through the Devdar forest to the grazing areas above. In the first grazing area, many small brown monkeys sat picking food from the grass. We watched them for some time before moving on. We turned to the left and soon passed a lean-to made of stone and wood. By it, a small spring flowed from a rock. Continuing on this trail, we passed a small shrine for a goddess. It was made carefully and skillfully from rock. The worshippers had decorated the sides of it with metal pieces in the shapes of birds. Here I knelt to acknowledge the spirit of the forest. The trail wound up the mountain in switchbacks until we came to a pasture where a spring flowed into a neatly carved basin in the rock. Here we saw the path no longer and went up a steep hill through the ridge. Atop there was a stone tower, likely to mark the way in times of snow. We walked along the ridge until we came to a steep bowl-like pasture on the side of the mountain. Below us we could see a single wild goat that soon spotted us and ran uphill and around the cliffs ahead. We followed that direction, since all their ways led towards big, steep cliffs. Soon we were on the narrow path, high above the valley below. Obviously, this path was made for the sheep and the shepherds. When we came around the cliffy outjut, we were in another, even larger bowl-like grazing area. We walked to the top where the pasture turned to evergreen oak forests and met a group of reindeer monkeys eating the leaves while sitting in the trees. They were shy and curious, moving away from us while staying close enough to watch us. We were pretty certain that we could take the path further down into the Manu Valley and find the same cabin that we saw before, but the snow soon obscured the path. We decided to look for a less steep way to go back and wandered in a new direction. We found ourselves creeping around tops of cliffs that the goat himself had shown us the way to avoid. The crows in this altitude babble in a human-like way. After giving them some cheese, they followed us at a distance while we searched for a way down the cliffs. Eventually we returned to the way we had come, and we did so at a good time. The sun had disappeared behind dark clouds, and the sky tinted rain. We watched lightning from the ridge before descending into Old Manali. Lately I have been unwell. I'm tired and sick often. Sometimes I spend all day in bed, and George goes out to explore the local area without me. Upon returning this time, he had a curious story to tell. He met a man who wore very damaged pants that barely covered his legs, even at the upper thighs. He had called George in from the path heading into the Manu Valley and asked George to have tea with him. The man told a strange story. One day I went to visit and hear the story as well. A business partner had come from Europe to help him build a guest house, but had ended up getting his wife involved in the sex industry. The wife had been giving her husband medicine to keep him sleeping in the night while she worked and had nearly poisoned him. When she tried giving her two children medicine, the father had protested. The business partner left, and the wife eventually threw herself into the river from the cliff outside. The man had supposedly met someone he referred to as the Astrologer, who had predicted all these events. This man had told him that he must wait, and while wearing those ragged pants he would meet a European woman who would save him from all his woes. The sign he would know her by would be some selfless act upon him. Recently a woman had come and while staying washed his dishes. He now awaits her return from Europe to remove him from his current state of affairs. I have no money. I am sorry there is no tea. I am a devotee. This is why I wear these pants. I am ashamed of my clothes, so I do not go into the village, he told us. At some time, his children came home. There were two young boys. They were very quiet and sad-looking. The younger one sat on his father's lap while his father told us more and more about the astrologer. I am not sure what is true and what is not within this story, but the wife is gone. The cliff is out front, and there remains two children. On another day, we decided to climb the hill behind New Manali. We wandered up through a still, open pine forest with bright green grass. Soon we found a trail and began to walk up that. On our way, we came to a large rock where you could look over the valley below. We met a German there who had walked the trail before and knew two men who had, in a single day, gone across the snow to the nearest peak. We sat on the rock for some time discussing the nature of ancient Indian practices such as yoga and mantras. He told us that recently science has been acknowledging more truth in these ideas. It seems that when science becomes more open-minded, it may discover some principles that have long been known by ancient civilizations and forgotten in our pursuit of facts. With heads so full today, we must be emptied before we can gain new understanding. The German said the rock was as far as he would go today, but we followed his instructions to reach the snow. We walked for some time on the snow, but again found that we were not confident in our ability to determine whether it was safe or not. We went back and sat under a tree. The German came up past us. Obviously, he had changed his mind. While under the tree, which was still bare from the winter, we discovered a walnut. I put quite some effort into cracking it, as it had the thickest shell I have ever seen on such a nut. The morsel that we gleaned from within was worth the work, though. On the way down, George found a porcupine quill and a whole hatful of false morel mushrooms. Villagers here solve problems with resourcefulness. In this mindset, nothing is permanent or perfect. We survive and are thankful for it. We do not do more work than necessary and enjoy abundance as much as we strive through scarcity. The human mind may not be calculative beyond necessity in the setting and would lead to potential less progress. However, these people seem happy and grounded. Now investors follow the tourists, and that changing the standard living conditions and the presence of money changes a system based on necessity to one that operates on capitalism and competition. The clash leads to easy rural lives without true environmental progress and inflated pollution that is dominated by earning income of visitors from other areas. Because of the influx of traffic, roads are constantly eroding. Villages are covered in large cement buildings that are reserved for visitors, and an economy based sheerly on visitors and cash amount develop. Imported goods are available at low prices, and the region no longer relies on produce within the area to sustain themselves. One village has declared that their god will no longer welcome tourism, which will hopefully safeguard this unique place from further development towards the current tourism ideal. However, income is very important for these people because there are a few things that money can buy them. Education and access to data through the World Wide Web. With these two access points, they could preserve culture, create a sustainable economy that is resistant to economic depression by basing it in the necessities of their village lives. Now there is a road where the path to my village used to be. I used the road to build a new concrete house for my family, our friend at the guest house explained. He describes how different it is now to his home. He says that with the clearing of the trail for the road, they also cleared his memories. He's excited, though, to go and live with his family in his new home. My village was what I was looking for all along. It was right here, George, he exclaimed happily. Our friend here at the guest house has taken a new lease on the land next to him, and is in the midst of finishing 5 new rooms that he hopes to have completed before this year's tourist season. If asked why he's building a multi-story building, or why he's interested in installing TVs and private toilets in each room, he answers, I have to do it because everyone else is doing it. All around his small guest house, buildings are climbing higher and higher, each room fitted with a Western-style toilet and TV. If he doesn't compete, he's at risk of going out of business. Soon the mountains will be difficult to see from the rooftop, as old Manali expands around him.